You won't believe this, but the Army doesn't have a picture of Corporal Fred Benning, the new namesake of Fort Benning in Georgia, but that's okay because we found one. Nope, you heard that right. The Army does not have a picture of Corporal Fred Benning, or at least they didn't, but now they do, so at least there's that. If you want to, you can take some time to really think about what that means. So to catch everyone up, it was announced by SecDef Hegseth earlier this week that Fort Moore, named for General Hal Moore and Mrs. Julia Moore, would be renamed back to Fort Benning, but using Corporal Fred Benning, who received a Distinguished Service Cross in October of 1918 while fighting in France. Here in the DSC, after taking control of his platoon and leading an assault on an objective after the platoon commander and senior NCOs were killed or wounded. Every release about the name change was missing one pretty important thing: a picture of Fred Benning. So we asked the Army for one, and they couldn't provide it, saying Army historians, including the Center of Military History, are searching through analog Army archives for a photo of Corporal Benning from his time in service during World War I over 100 years ago. So we started digging and got in touch with the Neligh, Nebraska city clerk, Dana Klebines, who was kind enough to send us a photo of him from his time as mayor of the town, and we got to learn more about the man. Fred was born in 1900 in Norfolk, Nebraska, about 30 minutes from Neligh. In 1917, at 17 years old, Fred joined the Army and a year later was fighting in France with the machine gun company of the 16th Infantry Regiment, 1st Division. He returned home shortly after the war, married a woman named Florence from Kansas, and settled in Neligh with his brother Henry, also a World War I veteran. In 1926, he and his brother bought the town's bakery, but sadly, Henry died suddenly a year later on his way to work at just 31 years old, suffering a medical episode that wasn't explained in the news article at the time. Fred kept the bakery operating, and in 1948, he was elected the town's mayor, beating his opponent with 428 votes to 227. In his 2 terms as mayor, he worked on paving roads, built sewers, and improved flood control. He might be best known for when he shot a guy, though. In December 1949, during a night meeting, he and 2 members of the town council were asked by the night watchman to check his .38 revolver for defects, and then Fred had a little negligent discharge, hitting another man's fingertip, as the story goes. The only other real mention of him comes in 1965 when he sold the bakery to a World War II veteran, and then in 1974 when he died. So it appears that Fred had a good military career, serving heroically in France in World War I, and then came home back to his community and made it a better place. Now, we aren't saying that the Pentagon's process for picking a soldier to replace the Moores as the base namesake was simply doing a search for Benning and a Ward, because they really only wanted the Benning name, but some people are starting to think that was the case. Regardless, at least we know a little bit more about the man and know what he looked like. You can read this full story and a lot more at taskandpurpose.com, and be sure to follow us right here for more news by and for the military community.